Well, here we are in the Piper Cub. Becki and I got to Hood River, Oregon at the Western Aviation Automobile Museum fly-in. Pretty spectacular. Man, a lot of airplanes now. They're even giving rides in their Ford Trimotor, which is a new addition. So we're going to wander around, look at the different airplanes, and make a few comments, and hopefully it'll be fun for you. Well, this is Waco Row here. I'm a Stearman guy and I don't know all of the Waco numbers, so we'll just take a nice gander at them. The one behind me is a taper wing though. Super cool airplane, huh? And here we have a Waco UPF-7.
Oh, well, you know that one.
Yeah, it's all jazzed up. Wheel pants and cowling. And then some earlier Wacos, 30s vintage. This twin color blue and silver, and it is sure jazzy. Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know the number on it. And wow, this one's really pretty. It's there was a Waco model I'm not familiar with, but it had a sliding canopy and closed cockpit. Open cockpit on the front. I mean, the Waco guys out there will be able to tell you what it is. But this one, wow, this one's purple and blue. Wow. Is that blue?
Yeah, turquoise. Turquoise and purple.
Yeah, what we have here is an early Waco with an OX5 water-cooled engine, V8. And very rare, probably mid-20s would be my guess. Really beautiful example. Got the radiator up on top there. These are the rocker arms here, opening and closing the valves. When the engine's running, they're doing a little dance there, chattering up and down. Kind of unique to be able to watch the rocker arms working on an engine.
That's like a 20s or?
Yeah, probably 25 maybe, vintage. Hey look, here's Addison Pemberton and Sons Grum & Goose. Restored it from a shell. Pretty beautiful airplane. Here we are at the Goose, Grum & Goose, and lo and behold, here's Addison Pemberton and his wife Wendy. And they are the gold standard for all this vintage airplane stuff. And behind every great empire is a good woman who keeps it going. And Wendy rib stitches and does the fabric work and all of their interesting airplanes.
The Goose behind us here, we bought in 2012. It was a children's play yard in Palm Springs. And we loved on it for 5 years. And we've got 600 hours on it. We've done 21 multi-engine seaplane check rides in it. I did have the privilege of flying with master pilot John Pike a few years ago in the Goose, and he gave us some pointers that have been very helpful.
Yeah, right. Yeah. He had to save a landing one time.
And John built our Waco wings. He built some C3 wings, and you know what you guys do. It's just
and Wendy, she's the fabric person. The N3N's beautiful. You did all the work on that.
Yeah.
Good job. Wow.
One piece upper wing, which is a bear.
Oh,
after she finished with the 40, she was kind of done with. When we did the 40, she had to stand in the wing to cover it. It was
in between.
It was blanketed, but it had to do cordwise instead of lengthwise. The fabric wasn't big enough, so she had to stand in the wing to do that. It was.
Well, neat.
And how many needles were you starting at a time?
15 to 17.
15 to 17, and walk around, do it again, and it was. Well, you live that. You know the life.
Usually we get a couple of people to help us.
Exactly, that works.
So these two people are the most personable, likable individuals you could ever meet.
Well, you're very kind. Very kind.
We're so happy to be associated and to know them and work with them on these vintage airplane projects. This is an N3N. It was actually built by the U.S. government, a naval aviation factory. It was designed for the naval aviators to get their primary training in. It was also fitted out in a single float arrangement, which is very unusual. So they trained both on water and on wheels with the N3N. Not as, they didn't produce as many as a Stearman, but it's an all aluminum airplane, all metal, no wood in it. All the angle, all the structure is aluminum angle that was from the leftover of the blimp factories, and pretty interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
So this is the Bristol Bulldog
Oh.
that was built from scratch by Ed, and I'm going to go see if he's around. We'll
Okay.
talk to him.
So a Bristol Bulldog? So Dad, so it's got a gun. So what's the history on this type of
Well,
plane?
this was a British fighter, probably in the early 30s. Don't know the exact history on it. When they were built, late 20s, early 30s, but this was a frontline fighter for the RAF back in the day. And the airplane's associated with a very famous fighter pilot, RAF fighter pilot named Douglas Bader, and he crashed it in an exhibit, and his legs were amputated. And so he was so obstinate, he wasn't going to be grounded. He got checked out again in the aircraft, and then when the Battle of Britain occurred, he was flying Spitfires and Hurricanes against the Germans, and then was finally shot down and spent the rest of the war in a prisoner of war camp. But the story goes that he had lost his artificial leg, or one of them, when he bailed out, and so he requested that the Germans allow his leg to come back to him, so they dropped it in the prison camp or something to that effect. Amazing story. So he was flying a Bristol Bulldog when he lost his legs.
Wow.
So this is a one-of. It's experimental.
Okay.
He has created most everything. Maybe there's some original parts in it, but it's been his wife was just saying it's been like a 40-year project, a dream that's been finally realized. This is a Cessna T-50 Bamboo Bomber. Maybe some of you guys, you people that have watched our shows, are aware that Becki and I rescued a Bamboo Bomber down in Galveston, Texas. The museum had been flooded by a hurricane, and the Bamboo Bomber was left lonely there for 10 years in this climate-controlled hangar. But they were going to scrap it because the museum had moved to Houston. So we went down and grabbed it, took the fuselage off the wings, and we put it in a Penske trailer, the fuselage in a Penske trailer, and the wing on a 40-foot hotshot trailer, and we brought it back to our hangar at Sandy, Oregon. But now it sits there lonely. What we need is a patron who wants a Bamboo Bomber. It's an excellent airframe, and we'd love to talk. Okay, this is a Ryan PT-22, low wing, wire braced, open cockpit, 160 horsepower Kenner engine, big wood prop, kind of a streamlined looking airplane, pretty cool. We at Big Sky restored one time. We built new wings for it and got it all flying, and for the first flight we took it out, and at 700 feet over the end of the runway over the woods, the engine quit. It quit so hard it twisted the spline on the crankshaft and split the wood propeller. And here I was sitting fat, dumb, and happy at 700 feet over the woods. Well, there's been a lot of talk lately about the impossible turn. Well, I did an impossible turn. I didn't want to crash in the woods, so I dove the airplane, and in the dive, I turned around and headed back towards the airport. But fortunately, there was a 1,500-foot grass overrun, a rough overrun, and I made it. Once I was level again, because the prop had stopped, it was not a windmilling prop, and I had the lift to squeak across the top of the trees and dive down and land on the overrun. So I would never encourage anybody to do the impossible turn, but saved my hide on that one. Only because I had a 1,500-foot overrun after the runway.
Mm-hmm.
They trained young kids in these airplanes for amphibious, or not amphibious, but for water work. They would later fly the flying boats and so on, but they trained in the N3N on a single float, which is unusual. And then it has wingtip pontoons out on the end of the wing. So nice airplane. I got an interesting story about Twin Beaches. I was just a young kid. I was going to A&P school, and there was a derelict D-18 that had been sitting for years at a local airport. So I asked the guy if I could fix it up, and so I went and fixed it up, got it running, and I'd never flown a multi-engine airplane before, but I took off and flew it over to Portland International Airport, where the A&P school was, and so I worked on it for 6 months there as a project at A&P school. And then flew it for 30 or 40 hours, then gave the airplane back up to the owner. The next person who flew it was on his way to Salt Lake City in it, and the engine blew up, and it crashed on the freeway. Nobody was hurt.
Oh no.
So lucky it wasn't me. Well, so here it is. This is Orion that we fixed up, and the engine failed on, the Kenner engine, and I had to do the impossible turn in it. It's a good thing I didn't put it in the trees, or you wouldn't see it today at WAAAM.
Would we see you either, Dad?
You wouldn't see me either.
Mm-hmm. Looking good.
The Howard we just finished is out campaigning. It made Oshkosh this year. Seems to be flying well. Beautiful airplane. Yeah, here's another N3N. They were sold surplus after the war. Most of them put the Continental, or the Pratt Whitney 450 engine on them, and you can tell this one was probably a Duster at some time. It has a 450 Pratt Whitney on it. Yeah, this beautiful little Piper Cub, I've flown it in it before, but Harry Jump back in the late 60s, early 70s taught me how to fly off of sandbars on the Columbia River. So this airplane is very special because we'd fly together in formation and we'd go to different spots, and so he'd take me into the wilderness landing areas. He liked it, did a lot of it, and I was new at it. I was probably 17 years old. This is Vanessa. She's the owner of this little Piper Cub, and she just reminded me it has the name Tumbleweed. And what an appropriate name, because Harry, her father, took me into all those bush areas and kind of introduced me to all that. Tell about the 21st birthday thing.
Oh, well, I found some pictures that had my Cub when it was white with brown, and had his Cub when it was red and white and had an old 60-horse Franklin engine. And it was on a dry lake bed of some sort, and I said, "John, this is your Cub." And he goes, "Yeah, and that's me," and that was my 21st birthday.
This is a beautiful little biplane. It's called a Student Prince. They were built in Portland, Oregon area, I understand. When I was a young kid and we were hoping we could find an open cockpit biplane, we located a Student Prince project, and we drooled over it. We couldn't afford it, so it went on with life. But this little Student Prince here, I believe it'd be the same one. There's only one or two flying, but it's a cute little airplane with a Kenner engine, and could have been a Big Sky airplane.
Or it could have been Big Sky Student Prince instead of
Big Sky Student Prince.
instead of Big Sky Stearman. Because you guys ended up with Stearman.
So a Student Prince, cute name. Yeah, I could have been a Student Prince then. Yeah. I think this is a Yak, and a cabin job. It's got a Russian M14P engine, 300 and some horsepower. We're putting one on a radical experimental that we're building. So you'll be hearing about it before too long.
So what's the engine called again?
It's a Russian M14P engine.
P.
This is a PT26. It's basically a Fairchild PT19 with a radial engine, probably a Continental engine, all wood wing, wood center section. We've never had much call to work on the Fairchild wood wings, but they're a fine flying airplane.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, that's
So Dad, what plane would you want to fly in if you had to pay $250 to ride it?
Oh, wow. I'd probably give that to Addison Pemberton and go fly the Goose for a half an hour.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it's quite an experience, especially for people they won't have this opportunity again. Just think this was the airliner of the late 20s flying across America through thunderstorms and heat and turbulence, and you had to be a pretty hardy soul to fly across America in TWA Trimotor back in the day. It's hot out here. All these beautiful airplanes make me tired. I realize how much work it goes into them to get them that way. But we're going home. Gonna hop in the Cub, go back to Sandy River to Big Sky Stearman.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we had a wonderful day at Hood River. 2 hours round trip into Piper Cub up the Columbia River Gorge. Our ground speed was 50 miles an hour getting there. The trucks were passing us on the freeway. Got home in half that time almost with a tailwind, but the Cub is safely tucked away in her nest now. And another grand adventure in Big Sky Piper Cub.